Hello everyone. By this change, we would like to talk about the elements of poetry and the types of poetry on Introduction to English Literature. Our groups consists of 6 members, and here are the list of the members. First, Alnesta Mahardika, and the second, Mohammad Rizky Putra Perdana, and the third, Ariefzie Aulia Mohammad, and the fourth, Arik Aditya Syahputra, and the fifth, Aldiansyah Arthanan, and the last, Mohammad Fikri Zulfikar. Well, first of all, we would like to give you the meaning and the explanation of what is poetry. Poetry is a type of literature based on the interplay of words and rhythm. It often employs rhyme and meter, or a set of rules governing the number and arrangement of syllables in each line. In poetry, words are strung together to form sounds, images, and ideas that might be too complex or abstract to describe directly. Poetry is probably the oldest form of literature and probably predates the origin of writing itself. Poetry can be written with all the same purposes as any other kind of literature: beauty, humor, storytelling, political messages, and many more.
The elements of poetry. There are 5 important elements of poetry. The first one is imagery. The only thing that will make your poetry powerful and enticing is a great imagery. Imagery poems draw the reader into poetic experiences by touching on the image and sense which the reader already knows. The use of images in this type of poetry serves to intensify the impact of the work. Imagery in poetry refers to the pictures which we perceive with our mind, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin, and through which we experience the duplicate world created by poetic language. Imagery evokes the meaning and truth of human experiences not in abstract terms as in philosophy, but in more perceptible and tangible forms. And you might think, why poetry use imagery? Well, a good poet does not use imagery, that is, image in general, merely to decorate a poem. The second element of poetry is rhythm. Definition of rhythm in literature: rhythm is the pattern of stressed and unstressed beats. Rhythm is most commonly found in poetry, though it is also present in some works of drama and prose. The rhythm of a poem can be analyzed through the number of lines in a verse, the number of syllables in the line, and the arrangement of syllables based on whether they are long or short, accented or unaccented.
Rhythm in literature. Rhythm is so important to human nature that it has been theorized that there is a link between rhythm and the human heartbeat, rhythm and evolution, and rhythm and emotion. The majority of both music oral and poetry maintain a beat. For early oral literature, the presence of rhythm was a necessary aspect for the memorization of the lines and passing these poems on. Sound. The rhythm of a poem goes along with the general sound of it as well as making it easier to remember. There are 2 sound patterns to know here. One is soft and harmonious. I like to think of it like the sound of angels humming. This is euphony. In euphony, words are chosen for their soft consonant sounds and melodious quality. And there are the example of letters euphonies. And then there is cacophony. In a cacophony, words are chosen for their hard sounds and general obnoxiousness. Childish styles of gung-ho attitudes never result in progress. And there are the example of cacophonic letters. Density. Density is what sets poetry apart from prose, or normal speech patterns, or the way fiction and non-fiction books are written. Density is how much is said in how little of space. The ability to use metaphors, not conform to traditional grammar styles, and incorporate sounds and rhythm is unique to poetry.
And the next one is line. In poetry, the line is like one sentence, and since poetry doesn't conform to grammar rules and no one is obligated to use a period, the end of a line is like a period would be in prose. It creates a natural pause, making a break in the flow. This is a tool you can use to control the rhythm of your poetry, so keeping the way you break your lines up in mind is crucial to writing great poems. And the next is types of poetry and their characteristic. The first one is lyric poetry. Lyric poetry concerns itself largely with the emotional life of the poet. That is, it's written in their voice and expresses strong thought and emotions. There is only one voice in a lyric poem, and we see the world from that single perspective. The second one is narrative poetry. Narrative poetry is concerned with storytelling. Just as in a prose story, a narrative poem will most likely follow the convention of plot, including elements such as conflict, rising action, climax, resolution, and other else. And the third one is descriptive poetry. Descriptive poetry usually employs lots of rich imagery to describe the world around the poet, while it most often has a single poetic voice and a strong emotional content. Subtypes of poetry. The first one is sonnet. Sonnets are predominantly concerned with matters of heart. If you see a sonnet recognizably blocky form on a page, there's a good chance the theme will be love. There are two common forms of sonnet, Shakespearean and Petrarchan. They differ slightly in their internal structure, but both have 14 lines. In the Petrarchan, first 8 lines pose a question, and the second stanza answer the question posed. Rhyme scheme is ABBE, ABBE, CDE, CDE. In the Shakespearean, ends with a rhyming couplet which forms a conclusion, and rhyme scheme is AB, AB, CD, CD, EF, EF, and GG.
Number two of subtypes of poetry is haiku. The haiku is disciplined form of poetry that has its origin in 17th century Japanese poetry. Usually it is concerned with nature and natural phenomena such as the seasons, weather, and etc. However, there are no real rules regarding themes. Number three is limerick. Favorites of school children everywhere. The most defining characteristic of limericks are their renowned humor, given their well-deserved reputation for being funny. 5 lines in total, one closing line containing the punchline. Rhyme scheme is AABBA. Number 4 is elegy. Elegies are a type of poem that don't really come with specific structural requirements, but still constitute a recognizable form of poetry. What makes an elegy is its subject, that is, death. The word elegy itself comes from the Greek word elegia, which means to lament. A poem of reflection on death or on someone who has died usually comes in 3 parts expressing loss, grief, praise for the deceased, and finally, consolation.
5. Ballads. Ballads are a type of narrative poetry that has close ties to musical forms. Ballad written as poetry can often easily be adapted as song lyric. Tell a story, often using simple language, often romantic, adventurous, or humorous. Rhyme scheme is usually ABAB or ABCB. 6. Ode. Another poetry form that traces its origin to ancient Greece. Odes were originally intended to be sung. Nowadays, though no longer sung, the term ode still refers to a type of lyrical poem that addresses and often praises a certain person, thing, or event. The author addresses a person, thing, or event, usually has a solemn and serious tone, explore universal element of the theme. 7. Epic. Epic is a long narrative poem that recounts heroic tales, usually focused on a legendary or mythical figure. Think of work of literature on a grand scale such as the Odyssey, the Cattle Raid of Cooley, or Beowulf. These are the example of it. Employ an objective narrator written in an elevated style, recount heroic event.
So finally, since we have reached at the end of this material, if you guys have any comments, questions, or even advices, we would also love to hear it. Goodbye and thank you.